What's up, everybody? It's your man Danell, A.K.A. Small Guy Promotions, A.K.A. the Omaha Fattie, coming with another podcast episode of What's Up Omaha. And we always have special guests on the podcast, but my guest today is a super special guest, Mr. Rich Bak. He is an integral part of the Taylor family, Small Guy Promotions family household, because Rich was our first realtor, our very first guy who helped us get into a home many moons ago. What's up, Rich?
Danell, thank you for that intro. Uh, First of all, I just want to say you're one of my favorite humans.
Oh man.
I think every time I talk to you or get to see you, you're always smiling. You got a good positive outlook on things, and that has an impact on me too.
You know, that's what it's about, man. That's what's great about social, or what can be great about social media, or just whatever is the reach that you can have. I say this often. Maybe somebody's having a bad day or whatever it is, a bad week, and it there can be one little thing that they see that can help them smile or laugh and kind of change the momentum and turn things around. So I try to present that whenever possible. So thank you.
You are doing a good job with that.
Man, I try to stay around good people. So
That's important. That's definitely important.
which, well, it's kind of crazy now because we're not really around people, but
That's true.
that's the tough
This,
thing.
this too shall pass.
It will.
Not to dive right in, but I was actually reading up a little bit on some of what 2021 is going to bring in light of COVID and all this stuff that everybody's going through. And the real estate market really hasn't changed a ton. I mean, it hasn't slowed down a ton. And with the vaccine, it's giving a lot of people a lot of hope, regardless of what. I know there's a lot of controversy around vaccinations. I've read and I see different things, but it is giving people hope that there's some light at the end of the tunnel with all that stuff.
Yep.
The That's also giving, I think, some not only hope but reason for businesses to feel good, that they're going to be able to stay open more and have more sales and more commerce and more employment and all those things looking forward to 2021, I think will help everybody have a little bit better year, but real estate in particular, low unemployment, which I was on a webinar with the National Association of Realtors chief economist, and he said a couple of things that stuck out to me that your listeners might appreciate. The Fed rate, which is the money the federal government loans to banks, which then loans to you and me,
Right.
they're going to keep that down to like 0%, maybe a 0.25%, which is pretty cheap for banks to borrow or whomever. Maybe it's capital for a business to expand and then hopefully employ more people. But that should also help. And I know they're not tied exactly. So if there's any lenders watching this, don't quote me exactly, but they should allow for mortgage rates to stay on the low side too. And they are super low. I mean, if you're thinking of buying something right now, money is really cheap. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know that we're ever going to see this kind of low interest rates again for housing.
Oh man, and I tell you, I mean, we're not looking because we just moved in this house 2 years ago, but we were actually looking into refinancing back in March, and I was emailing back and forth with the mortgage broker, and just because the rates were moving so fast, when we finally got it figured out and confirmed and everything, the rate had changed. So he was like, I'll keep an eye out for it. So then I messaged him back in August, September time, and we actually closed on the refi, and it was lower than what it was before. We ended up getting 2.75% for a 30-year loan.
That is amazing. It really is crazy.
Yeah, so
It's
I'll take it.
benefiting a lot of people. Yeah, for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, even just off of that, if we don't even pay anymore, a month, we're saving $200 a month, on the mortgage. So, which, of course, we're paying more
Right.
because we want to get it paid off. But I mean, even to have that rate to feel more comfortable, just in case something happened, we got a little more wiggle room, and
Right.
we'll be all right. So,
You talk about paying off a house early. A lot of people will try to do a 15-year loan because it cuts the typical 30-year term in half. But another way to do it is that you could get a 30-year term, and if you make one extra payment a year, just cut that one payment up into 12ths, add that to every payment you make, you can cut your term down by 10 years.
yep.
And still have that luxury if you're having a short month, a tough one, or you just want to take some extra cash that month and go on vacation, you can still default to that lower house payment. So there's a lot of ways to structure things to make people's lives more tolerable, better, free up some cash, still buy a house.
Yep. And that's what we did too. We considered, because it would have been 2.55 if we would have did a 15-year loan. And we were like, ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
But you know what? Let's just in case,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
go ahead
Why
and go
not?
with the 30. And then, we just pay extra principal. Like Mitzi made a whole extra payment this
Yep.
month already. Or towards the end of last month, beginning of this month, she made a whole extra payment. So that's our payment for the year, but every month we're going to be paying extra because we don't have any other bills. So it's great.
Yeah.
I'm sure the banks.
I know when I started about 20 years ago.
Go ahead.
What's that?
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, when I started this business back in 1999, and I'm sure a lot of old guys will say, I remember when rates were 18%, and but when I started, I mean, they were 7-8%, and we were still
Yep.
selling houses. We were figuring out how to do it, and there's ways to buy interest rates down or negotiate into the deal, some things that can help make buying a house easier. But yeah, 21 years later, I didn't think, just like gas prices,
Right.
when as soon as they hit $4 a gallon, I was like, oh, we're never going to see $2 a gallon again. Here we are. Things move and shake and change, and there's cycles. And
Yeah, and I'll definitely take it. I mean, anytime I can get some extra money in my pocket.
right.
Yeah, and I think when we got our first house, I think we were probably in that was 2005. So I think we were around the 7% rate, somewhere around there. I don't remember exactly where, but man,
Yeah.
you made it such a smooth process for two young people who didn't know what they were doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm glad to keep in contact with you and know you. And, anytime I see something that I can share, I try to share it for you. And I just hope you continue to help a ton of people.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. When I first got into this, I pretty much came from a fairly poor background. At one point in my life, there were 6 people in a 2-bedroom garden level apartment.
Oh man.
My mom and dad and my baby brother shared a room, and then me and my 2 other brothers shared a room, and it was bunk beds. And sometimes my middle brother would go sleep on the couch in the living room, or make a bed on the floor in the living room, get 4 or 5 blankets, and have a little camping party in the living room. But my grandparents, he's one of the guys that influenced my life a lot. He's a classic immigrant story. He came to the U.S. During World War II, and literally had like $20. I mean, he and my grandma were running from the Nazis in Europe.
Yeah.
Found their way to Germany. My dad was born there. They came through Ellis Island, I'm pretty sure, ended up in Chicago. And my grandfather then got a job in Davenport, Iowa, with a company that made parts for satellites that they would launch into, space.
Right.
He even has a couple patents. He's like one of the smartest dudes I ever met.
Nice.
Anyway, he bought a house when he first got here, $30,000, bought his first house. Uh, Literally the classic story. I mean, he had like $20 and just built it up slowly, bought his house. Um, so the reason I say that is because with me being on the poor side and my family always kind of moved around small apartment to small apartment. Whenever I go to my grandparents' house, and I knew their house was always there. Didn't move. It was theirs. We'd go there for Sunday dinners after church. We'd spend Christmas Eve. It was like the Rock.
Right.
And I always
Yeah.
I always got a sense, I always got a good feeling when I went to their house because it was something that was stable and always in my life. So when I think about real estate and I help families, in particular you guys or whoever, when I can help somebody have that feeling, where they're getting their house, especially the kids, man, when the kid buying a house is a big deal.
Yeah.
And I remember that feeling from going to my grandparents' house. And I like to have, or I like to, if I can help the kids have that same feeling that I had, they have a safe place, it's theirs, it's a nice house, and it's going to be a place where they can go and feel good. That's what kind of drives me in terms of helping people get houses.
Yeah. And man, and again, I'll say, like, you do such a great job. I mean, number one, with us being a young couple, the patience and just, helping find something in a range that we were at, not making a lot as, 22-year-olds or I think
Yeah,
22 and 23-year-olds, and just, going house to house. I know there's so much work involved on your end, and working after hours, you know 7, 8 o'clock at night or whatever, you're sending paperwork at midnight, or just, there's so much that goes into it. And I don't think people get to see the backstory a lot of why you do what you do, and maybe they think you just like to sell stuff or whatever it is, but
yeah,
it's nice to learn that actual backstory to why you do what you do.
yeah. Thank you. I remember I had a job before this one. Worked for ConAgra Foods, and I was working a second shift. And I got off one night late. It was like 12:30, 1 o'clock. And if anybody's ever worked second shift, you go home, you can't go to bed right away.
Yep.
You're wound up a little bit. So I'm laying on the couch and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm surfing the TV. And I don't know if anybody remembers, but there was a guy who did an infomercial called, I think it was Carlton Sheets. Gosh, I don't remember his name. But anyway, dude he was interviewing people and they're holding these big checks and they're standing on a dock in Florida and there's a mansion and a boat and palm trees, and
Right.
they would show this check for like 30 grand and they would say, if you want to make a big cash, you should get into real estate.
Yeah.
You can buy and sell properties with no money down and other people's money and all this stuff, and it's easy. And I didn't buy his stuff, but it did dawn on me. I was like, I've always been interested in real estate. I should learn more about that. And that's really what piqued my interest once again
Right.
in the real estate world. So I went to, I didn't want his $39.99 a month program. I'm sure that's how he was making his money, but
Right.
I went to Barnes and Noble and I bought like 5 books on real estate. And I just power read through those in like 1 week.
Man.
And it still didn't really answer all my questions. So I ended up going to the local real estate school, getting a license, and off I went.
Yeah. And so you started with, what was the first company that you started with?
It was a small mom and pop shop called Apple Realty. And it was, he's still a friend of mine. He was a good mentor and a good business coach. I remember being in real estate school, and one of the guys I sat next to, he goes, when you're done with this, who are you going to go work for? And I said, work for? I'm going to work for me. And he goes, well, you can't really do that unless you have a broker's license. If you just have a regular salesperson's license like you're getting, you have to sign up and work for a broker. And I was like, oh, I guess I don't know. So he gave me this business card from a guy who had sold his house and owned the company. And he goes, you know, you should talk to this guy because he's pretty knowledgeable. He's a smart person. He's nice. He sold my house. And I remember at that time, I had bought this old beat up Suburban from a guy. It was his old duck hunting truck.
Right on.
I mean, this thing was ugly, rusted out. It had like dual exhaust glass packs. I mean, it was loud and so I called this guy, and he lived in Barrington Park, which is a pretty affluent neighborhood over off of 156 in Dodge. Nice, beautiful home. Well, I had an appointment to meet him at his house, but I had this old duck hunting truck. That's the only car I had. And I pull up and it's literally rusted out. It sounds like shotguns are going off because the so I stuffed a blue towel in there. I was driving like this Molotov cocktail into this neighborhood where the average sales price right now is probably 600,000 or 700,000. And I was embarrassed, man. I parked around the corner because I didn't want to pull this truck up into his driveway. Walked up to his house, met him, and he showed me the ropes. And I decided that hiring a business coach and a mentor is more important to me than going to the company that I saw that had like, you know, the signs in the yards around town. I didn't want to join the biggest company. I wanted to find a mentor, you know, someone that could teach me the ropes, that could shorten my learning curve and show me what to do. And he did that for me.
Nice. Yeah. That's probably something that I don't know how much people hear about it now, but that's like a never ending thing, having a mentor who can, you know, share their experiences with you and kind of show you the ropes when you don't know what you're doing. I mean, that's an important thing. You know, some people learn by just going out and failing or whatever, and that's one way to do it, but it's always nice to have that person that you can at least talk things over with, who's been through a similar situation or down a similar path, and they just kind of know what you're going through.
Right.
You know, it's good to have people to talk to. And that's another thing about having people in your circle. Like, it's fine to have people who don't necessarily know or do the same things, but sometimes when it's a certain topic, you need that specialist who knows exactly what you're talking about and can offer some beneficial advice or, you know, just input for you to bounce back and forth off of each other or whatever. So yeah, that's definitely a major thing to have. And man, I'm glad you had it. And it's shown and proved through time, I'm sure. Are you a mentor for anyone else currently?
I'm not currently, but I was going to mention on your podcast that I have two kids and they just went through college. And so I have read a lot, I've talked to them, and one thing they realize, one thing we realize is that college isn't always for everybody.
Yep.
And there's a lot of ways in this world to make money, help people, be of value to someone, and real estate can be that. I was going to mention, if there's anybody listening that ever had a question about how to get into this business, I would be certainly open to fielding that phone call and talking them through that. You need a high school diploma, then you need to go to a local real estate school, get licensed, and then work for a broker. And like I would be willing to be a mentor to someone else, show them the ropes, teach them how to do this. And this is no joke. Mm-hmm. The top realtors in this nation, they're making rock star and athlete money. These guys are pulling down 7 figures, not 6 figures, big money. And there's
Yeah.
ways to do it. And you don't have to go to college to do that.
Well, and I know I've seen some of those houses that, Mitzi and I joke when we see some of the bigger houses that you sell. And I'm just like, oh man, that house is huge. It's like 3 of my houses. And then we're like, how
Yeah.
much does that cost?
Yeah.
Okay, no. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
people are always moving, like you said at the beginning of the podcast. People are still, moving locations. That's probably a thing, you hear a lot about when COVID started, people moving out of big cities. And, so those people who weren't planning on moving before may have all of a sudden entered the market. And I know when we were 2 years ago, when we were shopping for a home, I mean, we would go and see a house, and later that night, Steve, our other realtor, would be like, hey man, someone's already got a bid in on this house. And we're like, dude, it just went on the market today. He's like, yeah, I know, man. That's the way it's going. There's just so many people. And being in the Omaha area with like military families and whatnot, being in the Midwest, a lot of people are always coming to this area. So
Yeah. Well, that's a good point you brought up. And that was another thing that the National Association, he said, with the work at home flexibility that employers are giving to their employees now,
yeah,
that people don't have to live within 20 minutes of work anymore. You can live anywhere you want, pretty much, with Zoom calls and online meetings and internet. So one of the changes that's also coming is a lot of movement based on rooms that are office spaces. If you're listening and you can put some good high-speed internet in your house, whatever you can do to tech it out so that if you have to go sell that someday, it will bring you top dollar, because people that are looking for those kind of things now will appreciate nice setups in your home.
yeah. And Rich, I like that you touched on that about what people can do. And I know that's a part of the job, and telling people how they can set themselves up for success when buying or selling a home. I know, I think 5 years in, I reached out to you about things that we could do for our home, and we didn't end up selling until 13 years, since we were in the house. But yeah, it was always nice to be able to have you there to say, hey, yeah, these are some things that you can do to increase the value of your home. Put in some storage, or, do this or whatever. A downstairs bathroom. Those are two of the things that I know that we did. And, the little superficial stuff on the outside, like landscaping and whatnot, when you get closer to the point where you're actually going to sell. But
Right.
over the years, just having you there to be able to answer those questions, I mean, that was priceless.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And I like to do that. So anybody I help, uh, um, if you ever need me, you can always call, always text. It doesn't always have to be about, hey, I want to go sell today or I want to go buy today. I'm certainly willing. I have a pretty good network built up. If somebody needs advice on something, I'm certainly open and willing to continue that relationship for sure. So anytime, man, if you need anything, you can call.
Appreciate it. And I will always keep you. It was a weird situation where a friend became a realtor here, and we talked about that and everything. But we wanted to continue the relationship with you, as well as help him out in his journey in the world of realty.
Hey, we're all connected, man. It's okay. I root for other people's success because there's plenty to go. We all are. It just raises the boat for everybody. So
Yep. Yep. That's something that we talk about too, is, that tide, it raises all ships.
that's that's the metaphor I was looking for.
Yeah, I
I
knew where
stumbled
you were
over
going. I knew where you were going.
it.
So, being that you helped us in our first home, I know things have changed. It's been a long time now, but what things can maybe a new couple or a new person, freshly out of college or whatever their situation is, if they're looking to buy their first home, what is something that they can do ahead of time to get themselves in a good position, aside from just having cash on hand? What are some things that they should be ready for when considering moving into a new home?
Well, cash on hand is a definite must. You have to have some of that. Unless you're a veteran of the US, then there are some zero down payment options for you. But make sure, and these are just basic things, but that score is good. Work on that and check that once in a while. You never know if there's a glitch in there or some small. I remember having one small medical bill for $76. We had moved and they claimed they sent it to us. We never got it, and a year later it was on there in the collections. And I'm like, I would have paid $76.
Right.
I didn't know. Um, but lenders do pay attention to credit. So if you want the best rates, you got to have a good credit score. Having some cash on hand is a must for down payment and closing costs. Um, Finding a good team relatively soon, like calling me, for example. I mean, you don't have to call me just because you're going to buy a house. If you said, I want to buy a house in 2 years, can I talk to you about what we should do? You can, please do. Um, so credit score, cash on hand, um, understanding what you want in a house. I have a lot of people that come to me as a first time buyer and they say, I want to find my forever home. And the reality is, you're probably, unless you're super wealthy and you can build exactly what you want, chances are you're going to have to compromise on a thing or two.
Yep.
And so figuring out what's most important to you in that first house. Oh, and the big one, in my opinion, you got to find the right location for yourself first. Because you can, as you know, you can change little things in your house. You can add a bathroom, you can change colors, you can, um, you know, modify your house to some degree, but you can't pick it up and put it on a different lot.
Right.
So finding that good location first is super important.
And it can be an overwhelming process. So having that prepared plan is always a good thing. Um, when someone is considering the purchase of a home, should they come and see you first, or should they go and talk to a mortgage uh, officer at a bank or credit union first?
Come to me first.
Okay.
I have I have a lot of connections in the banking industry. I can steer them to a couple, two or three good options. And I always make sure that if they get an estimate from a banker, I like to see that too, because then I can help them understand if there's any, and most bankers don't really do this anymore, but it used to be common that bankers would put in little bitty junk or bucks off of a loan, but most banks are pretty fair. Um, uh, Internet lenders versus local lenders. I won't say that all internet lenders are bad. There are some good ones, but local lenders generally are treated by the home seller as a little safer option. So if you need to make your offer to a homeowner a little bit more competitive or make that homeowner feel better, someone locally may give that seller a peace of mind versus having someone they'd never heard of online promise they're going to give you money.
Yeah.
Um, so if they call me first, I can certainly surround them with the right people to help that whole process be as smooth as possible and fun. You know,
Yeah.
buying a house is a big deal. It should be a lot, it should be fun. You shouldn't have a lot of stress with it.
Yep. And it's so such a big feeling of accomplishment when you do, especially that first home. I think there is that feeling probably whenever you buy a new home, just because it's 30 days to close or whatever. I mean, it's not like you can just go and do it today unless you're, even if you're given cash, people still have to move out or stuff has to be built usually. But I
Right.
know being in that first house, it was like, oh man, it's so great to get into our first home. Like we did it, and
Yeah,
then moving into the second home where you've been in a home already and paying mortgage. It's a different challenge, but you still feel that accomplishment when it's done, especially when it's competitive out there and you're searching for the right home and you got to counter offer and whatnot, and there's other bids coming in. You still feel like really accomplished, and like it's, I don't know, maybe you feel like a feeling of success when you get it. You're like, yes, I got what I wanted. And it can
absolutely.
it can be a letdown, but it can also be very good when you do get that one that you're looking for, and maybe you missed out on a previous one because it just wasn't meant for you. Like, and then you get into the new one and you're like, oh man, this is exactly what I needed. So it's still so exciting to do. I'm
Yeah, a
sure
lot
for
of
you
people,
guys. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, I was going to add on to that. You are 100% right. Um, People buy cars more frequently. They'll buy TVs. You know, you buy lots of stuff, but you don't buy a house more than, for some people, one time in their life. For some others, it might be three or four times, but every single time. I mean, it's the largest purchase you're going to make. It's a
Yep.
family so profoundly. I mean, from not just all the work that's involved, but getting a new house and starting kind of fresh, and you know, like you said, moving up to that next step where it feels so nice, you know, that you're accomplishing things and you're moving up. And I just love being a part of that whole scene because it is that way. I mean, all the families I work with, they're just so happy,
Yeah.
and it's fun.
Well, cool, man. Well, Rich, we've talked all this time, but we haven't told the people where you are now. We know where you started with Apple Realty. Where is Rich Bak now?
Well, I'm in Omaha for sure. I work for Remax Results, and really 5 years into starting with Apple Realty, we bought the Remax franchise. So I'm still with Remax. I love that company. They offer so many tools. They're a national company. Actually, there's Remax offices in 84 countries around the globe. So it's a large company, but each one is the local Remax offices are owned by someone here. So uh, when you talk about a national company versus a local company, we're both really. They offer so many tools. It's it's hard. I mean, I could talk about it all day long, honestly,
Yeah.
about all the marketing that we have at our fingertips, all the cool social stuff that we do, the photography, the staging, all of the have for home sellers that want to sell. And same for home buyers. We have apps and email drips and tie-ins and portals to the MLS, and just so many interesting, good value adds that we can provide to our customers. Um, I just love it. And my wife, she just recently came on board with me about a year ago, so she's working with me. And our goal, and I talked to her about this, I said, our goal, I want to come up with systems, and we have them in place, not just to provide good service, but to provide such good service that people want to stand on their roof and go, you got to hire Rich and Diane because they were great. So that is our goal for 2021. I just want to blow the socks off people. I want them to have no stress, love their house. We communicate a lot. We teach a lot. We're willing to be there, like you said, at all hours of the day. I think people should have a nice house, and their kids should have a nice, safe place to live.
Yep, I agree. And it one of the things that you said before about location, yeah, that is a definite. You know, being in the neighborhood that we're in now, it's just like, oh man, it's so quiet most of the time, and like there's never anything going on. That last neighborhood was so crazy. I've never lived in a place that is, and it's not just like a crime thing. It's just activity and just different crazy things happening, like home explosions and
Wow.
houses catching on fire, and just there was so many different things going on. That was definitely a neighborhood that I wouldn't want to go back and move to, but it helps us appreciate where we're at now more too.
Yeah.
So
And you had to get a start somewhere. You get
yep.
that first house, you build some equity, you roll that equity into the next one, and pretty soon you're humming along.
Yeah, and I tell you that equity was nice, and being able to put a nice chunk down on the current home, and again, you helped us get pretty much what we were looking for out of that house. We made a little bit, being in that house for 13 years. We made a couple grand off of that, and I tell you the down payment. At one point, you're kind of like, "Ooh, this is more money than I've ever had. Do I really want to put this on a house?" But just being able to do that, and plus our savings, just put us in a really good place for this house. And with us not having any other debt, like I said, just being able to pay principal, and Mitzi kind of charted out a little like best case scenario grid, and we could have the house paid off in like 6 years if we continue how we are now. But again, that's best case scenario, but it still feels, it's unreal, man, just to think like in 6 years, I could be 45 and have my house paid off.
Yeah.
So we'll see what
You're
happens.
you're a rare bird. Not
Hey,
everybody manages their money as well as you do.
oh, I don't, you know what? It's a team effort. I always say I got lucky. Well, I'm not gonna say I got lucky. There was something else at work in my life where I found Dave Ramsey at a young age, and
Yeah.
and even me being like a compulsive gambler and gambling away thousands of dollars, with the help of Mitzi, we were able to bounce back and, I don't know, like get our savings and emergency fund back to a comfortable place, and we're not stressing at all right now. Life is good.
Good, good, good.
So again,
Well,
you give Remax all your information there, phone numbers, emails, website, whatever you want to give, for the people to be able to contact you, whether they're looking to buy or sell or looking for a mentor or whatever it is.
yes, thank you. My direct line, and obviously you can text or call that number anytime, is 402-740-2744. And you can Google me, Rich Bak, R-I-C-H, B as in boy, A as in apple, K as in kangaroo. I know a lot of people my name's spelled a little unusually. It's really short, 3 letters, B-A-K. But if you Google Rich Bak, you'll find me. I'm all over the place online. Email richbak@remax.net, and then richbak.com for a website. Otherwise, yeah, just Google me, you'll find me. I'd be happy to help anytime.
And I'll
And
make
it's
sure
no obligations to any of it. If you just want, like I said before, if you just need advice, you want to get started, you want to know what to do to improve your house, you want a free neighborhood market report on what your neighbor sold their house for. If you want me to look at it and tell you what you should do to get it ready for sale, if you want to know, you could email me and I could set you up on a drip where you get notified every time a house comes on the market in your own neighborhood, so you can keep track of who's selling around you. That kind of helps you keep your own thumb on the pulse of your own neighborhood and what people are asking for their property. So there's lots and lots and lots of things we can do to help you.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, Rich. And I'll make sure to include all of that in the notes of the podcast, so people can actually get that too, as well as Googling it.
Thank you.
Any final tips? Any other final things that you would like people to know about you or your journey or anything?
No, not me. I just want everybody to know that I will be there for them if they need real estate help. I want to thank you for having me on. It was a lot of fun. I've been talking to strangers for 20 years, and I always get a little nervous when I'm doing, formal setting kind of speaking. So
Yeah.
you made it really easy. It was a lot of fun, and I wish you well and your family well and the holidays and all the fun stuff. So thank you again.
Yeah, no, thank you for being on, man. And again, I'm just so happy to have you as our first realtor and building a relationship and so much stuff, man. There's so much to be thankful for, especially this time of the year. Like you said, happy holidays. But yeah, we are very fortunate to have people like you in our lives who help us along, as we grow. So
Thank you.
well, ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe, hit the like button, tell people about us, share. That's what it is, man. Every day, find something to be grateful for. Smile, help someone else smile, laugh, and help someone else laugh all day, every day. Thanks, Rich.